depending on where you are and what kind of team you're on. I mean, I look at how we operate as a couple, but how we operate within our own teams. And we're pretty direct. Nobody takes shit personally, but that's not normal. I mean, we've worked for years to develop that kind of team. We set that context when we add people to the team. It's you're set up for that, but that's not the norm. When you're working with a high performance team, you don't have time for a bunch of niceties, and you can be direct because nobody's taking shit personally. And it can get really kind of feeling like everybody's agitated because everybody's fired up about something, but it's from a high performance point of view, but that's not the norm.
Yeah, but you're still working towards the same thing. I guess if we circle back to what you're operating on top of, the high level conversation is, think about the 4 agreements. If you've already got the 4 agreements in place and you're still operating on top of something, and you have the space to say, I'm operating on top of, my dad's dying right now, and I'm still going to do a great job. I may have to ask for a little bit of grace when it comes to maybe booking appointments, or maybe I'm going to be late or something, but here's what I'm operating on top of. But it gives the space, the respect to understand is that you're just not showing up late, or you're just not being angry or sad for no reason. And I
You're
think
not
that's
being irresponsible. You're not being irresponsible. You've got other stuff going on that in your life right now is a bit of a priority, and it will be a distraction at times. So you just state it out loud, then everybody knows what's going on. That changes the whole dynamic of
doesn't
things,
it?
and it changes the story that other people might be telling themselves about you.
It makes so much sense. And when you think about, this is a skill, a high level skill when it comes to communication in a team, also in a relationship. And how many times you and I have used this? It's similar to the Brene Brown, is the story I'm telling myself. That quote, the story I'm telling myself. The other one that I use with my clients a lot of
Well, hold
times.
on. Give a context. Like the story I'm telling myself is so good,
Yeah.
that statement. So can you give an example of it?
Well, relating it to what I'm operating on top of. So, for example, none of us are mind readers. I think I am. I'm a little psychic, or psycho, actually, is what you say. But a lot of times we tell ourselves stories about what we think the other person is thinking, or what they're going to do or say about us, when the truth is it has nothing to do with that. But the story that I'm telling myself, I can be a victim, I can be a hero, I can be whatever. But if I don't get it out of my head and actually say, here's what I'm operating on top of, here's the story I'm telling myself, is this even true for you? Again, it's another high level conversation tool that we learned through reading the Brene Brown work.
So that's the story I'm telling myself I use that one. I don't know. I didn't say often, but I go to that one, and I'll give you a great example. Somebody who walks in the door late on a regular basis and you call them out on it. You go, dude or dudette, you're late again. And they're going, yeah, well, I had to da-da-da, and I then had to get there, and then I had to stop for a coffee, or, whatever. There's an excuse that's happening in there. And I will look at them and I'll go, oh, okay, got it. Because here's the thing, the story I'm telling myself is you really don't care about this project, and you don't care about the fact
You don't
that you
respect
show up
me.
on time and compromise or don't put value on my time. That's the story I'm telling myself. So is that true, or is it just a story? It really is a way to shine a light on and not blame them. Go, oh, that's a story I'm telling myself, and it's based on what I'm seeing. And then they can come back and go, no, that's not the case. I won't be late again. Sorry. It seems that these things are happening. So it's a way to just take the edge off a tough conversation.
Love that. The next one that I use with my athletes a lot is, what are you making that mean? So, for example, there's a scenario. You react a certain way, I react a certain way, or there's something outside of us. And we're looking at the same story, we're looking at the same situation, but we interpret it 2 different ways. And then we come back to have a communication or a conversation about it, and we're like butting heads. And what I've learned to say, and what I work with my clients on, is when something like that happens, identify what you're making that mean. So the question I ask is, what am I making that scenario? What am I making it mean? What's the story I'm telling myself? What am I operating on top of? And all of these things start to understand, or start to unwind to the point where I can take responsibility for what I'm feeling. what my scenario is, what I'm going through, and then I don't have to project all of that stuff on other people. So those three things, what are we operating on top of? What is the story I'm telling myself? And what am I making this mean?
Now, these are, I think what you said was really, you used a word there that I think is really important, which is what am I projecting as a result of any of the answers to those three questions, right? How am I projecting, or what am I projecting out because of that? Did I hear that right? That's
Yeah,
how I took
totally.
it.
That's exactly right. Because ha honestly, 90% of the time, I'm wrong. And that's the other thing is that the question I ask myself when I'm in a charge or I'm trying to figure something out or I'm in a victim mentality, it's like, what if I'm wrong? That's the last one I ask myself is what if I'm wrong?
Hmm.
Because
Good
when we're
question.
projecting something onto another person, we're usually in the victim mentality. And we've
Hmm.
had podcasts before, we've talked about, different ways of being, whether it's the hero, the victim, a growth mindset, a victim mindset, etc. Is that as we move through mindset and how much mindset matters, is that we can decide if we're going to be a victim. And being a victim means that we are going to always be in a place of victimhood or shame or guilt. But if we're going to move through it and understand that we are in charge of our mindset and we ask ourselves these questions: what am I operating on top of? What am I making this mean? And how, the other one is, how am I responsible? Where am I responsible for what's going on right now? So those types of things, when it comes to moving through and how quickly you and I, for example, can get through issues, even if we're fired up, because you're fired up, Francie, when it comes to certain things. I'm fired up, Francie, when it comes to certain things. But if we're moving through it and we're committed to the same thing, we have the understanding that maybe we're misinterpreting that projection.
The first step in all of this is having the awareness, number one, that you are operating on top of something. And if you are, considering how you can get flat with that other person or other people, and how you can express it in a way that doesn't turn it into a blowout, and it doesn't have to feel or be confrontational. It can be very diplomatic, but confront the issue and without having a big negative charge around it. And again, it's always about bringing the subconscious into the conscious, being aware of what you're thinking. And that is the first step in having a great mindset.